So, Joker has been haunting me all weekend long, and like many of you probably who went to see the movie, you've been watching interviews with some of the cast and the director, Todd Phillips, and trying to kind of understand some of the questions and some of the stuff that has happened in this movie. I'm going to spoil a little bit in this discussion because I kind of backed off from spoiling too much in my review of the film. But it is clearly a movie that has some weight to it, and especially I think for fans that have been reading Batman stories for a long time. And I think that may be one of the things that a lot of people that have been offended by the film or shook by the film in whatever way, maybe didn't kind of recognize about what was attempted with the movie. It's really dark, and that's been made clear. But the Batman tales throughout the years have been very dark. People get their heads completely twisted and, completely pulverized, turn into like meat pies and into living dolls and cut up and slashed up. And Batman, as a detective, has to kind of continue to have his sanity in the insane world that Gotham City becomes. And I think that's kind of the milieu where this Joker kind of pulls from. Joker is a product of this broken city of Gotham, which was unbelievably well represented on film. I think Phillips and his cinematographers, they did an amazing job just showing the madness. All the way through the movie, we're constantly reminded of the rat-infested hellhole that Gotham City is. And, there is a lot of pressure on Arthur Fleck, on this Joker who is about to become Joker, on this character who just gets beaten down right from the beginning. But what you start to recognize early on in the movie is that, can you trust this character? Can you believe what he is kind of, because we're in his shoes and we're seeing it from his vantage point and we're in his mind, really. We crawl into his head. Can you trust it? Because he has legit lost his ability to kind of talk about things in a truthful way. He's got some cryptic, crazy rantings in his journal that he has while he sits down with the social worker. We have these different scenes early on in the film where he's trying to kind of unveil some of his thoughts and some of his feelings, but it opens up the page and there's grotesque images on there and some expressions about killing himself, and you just feel like he is a very, very lost and desperate person who is trying to just figure out when his next medication is going to come to him. And when he finds out that he's lost his ability to continue going to the social care, and he stops taking his medication, he starts to lose all hold on any kind of sense of reality. And so, consequently, when you're watching the film, right from the get-go, right from the very first sequences where the Joker gets beat up by a bunch of kids and they take their sign away, and nobody believes it. And honestly, when I sat in the theater watching him chase down these kids to get his sign back, it just felt, why would you care so much? If people were running away with your sign, you just go back and say they stole my sign. Nobody would expect a clown to run in clown shoes chasing a bunch of kids that wanted his sign. But he threw himself at that, and then he gets beat up, and then he has to kind of tell people, his superiors at the clown company that he works for, that he got beat up and they stole his sign, and it just gets weird. And then he gets handed a gun by a buddy, but then you start to wonder, did he really get handed that gun, or did he buy the gun? Because then he's accused of buying the gun. So there's this constant kind of thread throughout the movie where he presents a potential part of what the story is for his origin, but then it's subverted a lot. And the biggest one is with Zazie Beetz, who plays a neighbor in the apartment building that he lives in with his mother, and he has this whole sequence where he's falling for her, and at first we get a sense that he seems kind of creepy. He's very creepy, but then all of a sudden things turn, and she becomes this love interest, and it's very quick and it's very forced, and it's like, wow, I mean, she's a really forgiving human being to look at a person like Fleck there and think, okay, let's try this relationship out. But then you realize that nope, this is all sort of a manifestation in Joker's mind. But there's a lot of moments all the way through the movie where it just feels like, is he dreaming this? Is he, concocting this as a story? And that honestly can survive all the way through the movie, right up until he's transformed into the Joker, and we have this whole sequence after he's on the Murray show, and he gets captured by the cops, and he's in an asylum, and he's talking to the therapist and starts laughing, and she asks, "Why are you laughing?" And he says, "It's a joke that you wouldn't get." And you think, wait a second, is he just kind of making up is all of this just making up a story? Have we always been in the asylum? Have we left? Was he already the Joker? There's a lot of kind of weird things where you don't know for sure what the chronological order is on the movie, and that's kind of wonderful. And it plays like a lot of the comic stories that I've read. That's the thing that really impressed me the most, is that it's very dark, it's very twisted, and it doesn't dumb down the narrative in any sense, and it stays true to a lot of what we've seen in Batman mythology, but it has its own slant, its own kind of perspective, and certainly Joaquin Phoenix's performance stands alone. Even in the, even with somebody like Jared Leto, who took the role, I wasn't a fan of his, but he had it just a couple of years ago, and Joaquin steps into this and just completely crushes it and makes it his own. Now, I kind of alluded to this in my review, but the only thing that really kind of got to me about the movie and kind of let me down is I know that Todd Phillips reached out to Martin Scorsese and Scorsese's people to try to get him to be a part of the filmmaking process, and Robert De Niro became an ingredient in this movie, and he's cast as this talk show host, Murray. I forget the character's last name, but he plays this talk show host. It's kind of a flip on some of the stuff that he did in King of Comedy, and right from that kind of stunty type casting, plus the framing and the way that we set up all of the storytelling, so it echoes a lot of stuff that we saw in Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. I looked at the scenes and I knew that Joker was going to kill Murray, and that's exactly where it goes to, crescendos to that, and it was so predictable and so easy to kind of read and so manipulative as well. It just felt like, okay, we're going to get to this point, and it's going to be a real shock, and then that's when he becomes the Joker. And it works, it's effective, it is shocking, but it was also very easy to read the signs that, all of the movie-making pieces were leading to this moment. And the moment is sold, it's effective, it's very realistic, but I almost feel like it would have been more realistic if we didn't have Robert De Niro in there. And maybe a little bit more of a shock, a little bit more of a surprise. I mean, it's hard to quibble because most of the movie is like a home run, and even that moment is very solid, and I'm sure it was a shock for a lot of people. But it was very easy to kind of predict and see that was going to be the thing that happens. And of course, what happens after that is that he kind of, as that moment is coming up, just before he pulls the trigger and kills Murray, he is starting to claim his new identity, his real identity as this madman, as Joker, as this killer, and then he is this guy, and then we get to kind of understand the resonance of the character, which I think is also true to the comic books as well. It's frightening as well. I mean, this is such a twisted, dark city that even the early killings that Joker does kind of in self-defense are received by the population of the city where they almost have like a hero worship kind of thing. Like this vigilante is kind of looked on as a hero. So we see people in the streets wearing clown masks and people idolizing him. And Arthur Fleck kind of sees all of that happening around him, and he relishes all of that. But later on, of course, we see that fervor just whipped up, and we see the resonance of that taken out on Thomas Wayne, who is rallying to become the mayor of the city. He's got this whole sort of agenda for social change. But what I liked about the way that they interjected Thomas Wayne into this is that he's not the pure, like this pure-hearted, holier than thou kind of person. You know, he is. He's a little dark. He's a little twisted. He says some scumbaggy things throughout the film. And he comes off like an asshole. He comes off as this real pompous, non-caring individual that has, made a lot of wealth for himself and expects the world to just pick up their bootstraps and do as well as him. And he gets his comeuppance by this mob that is manifested by this adoration for the Joker. He gets killed, as we all know, and Bruce Wayne is sitting there over his slain families. His slain family, his mom and dad are dead at the hands of a guy in a Joker clown mask. It isn't the Joker. And that was really effective. And that really felt like, 1970s dark Batman type storytelling for me. I thought that was great. And I also liked the ambiguous nature of the fact that, and this is the big, I've spoiled the hell out of this already, but this is the big spoiler shocker thing here, okay? The concept that is posited that Thomas Wayne had an affair with Arthur Fleck's mom, and that he is the stepbrother of Bruce Wayne, is so radical and so gutsy and kind of out there, but I appreciate that choice so much. It kind of is almost a little too on the nose for why the Joker would hate Batman, because he sees Bruce Wayne being taken care of while Thomas Wayne has completely abandoned his mistress and the son that they had together, potentially institutionalized him. But of course, she has all of these mental illnesses as well, and so Arthur Fleck doesn't know what to believe. He doesn't know if she is telling the truth either, and so there's this kind of slippery narrative and this slippery kind of grasp on reality in their whole family. But just the idea that might be, and that little picture with the "I love your smile" TW on the back of it, I thought was very sly and very clever, and it will get us talking about this movie and some of the choices in it forever and ever. And I think that's the genius of the flick. Like there's a lot of ways that this movie can be interpreted, and it also did a pretty damn convincing job of getting us into the mind of this very twisted supervillain. I love the film. It's very hard to watch. I think I'm going to probably see it again just to kind of, see how it makes me feel and see how much more I take it apart. But there's definitely a lot to kind of digest. And when we clip this segment out into its own thing, I definitely want to hear your thoughts. But make sure, there's spoilers, should be all over the place here. But I want to hear your thoughts and, your opinions and get some sort of ideas of what you think some of the meanings and the hidden meanings of Joker are from your perspective. But damn good film, and I stand by my 9 out of 10.